hunting, fishing, loving every day. That's a prayer that a country boy prays. Thank God he made me this way. Hunting, fishing, loving every day.
Welcome to another episode of Walleyes and Adventure throughout the Grape region.
Hello, my name is Mike Lamberson, your host of Walleyes and Adventure throughout the Grape region. Welcome to our first episode of Walleyes and Adventure. I'd like to give you an introduction to what our podcast is going to be all about. Our main goal here at Walleyes and Adventure is to educate fishermen on the great walleye fishing in the Pennsylvania waters of Lake Erie, along with featuring some destination trips within an easy drive of our area. When I say our area, I would say city of Erie. As a charter captain and an avid fisherman, I've been exposed to a vast array of different techniques for catching walleyes in the Pennsylvania waters of Lake Erie. When I started fishing up there, probably say like 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of information about fishing our area. Now, you could find a lot of information about fishing Western Basin walleyes, but not a lot of information about fishing the deep waters off Pennsylvania. So our focus is going to be on those kind of techniques. We're going to be interviewing lots of different charter captains, different people that have their expertise in certain areas and different techniques. And, a lot of guys know me as the worm guy, but, there's lots of guys out there who have different ways of catching walleyes, and we're going to interview them and find out how to do all these different techniques.
Now for some hot tips from our sponsor, Mike's Walleye Rigs.
Hey, Mike here with Mike's Walleye Rigs. Hey, one of the ways we're trying to make ourselves a little more efficient and keep things rolling out there on the water is we pre-tie all of our leaders, and we spin them up on a thing we make it looks like this, and it just makes things a lot easier out there. If you break off, you can grab a leader and replace it and be back in business real quick. So how I make these things, you just take a old line spool, like this. Once that's empty, you just take a hacksaw and you cut a slot through the rim of it into the center of the hub. You cut it at an angle with your hacksaw, like so. And then you take your drill, like an 1/8-inch drill, and drill it right through the hub of it at the end, right at the end of that slot. Then you take, and that'll leave you with a slot with basically a hole at the end of it. Looks like that. So then you're going to take your spool and you're going to cut some more slots in the side of it, in the rim, that look like that. And you'll cut like 2 or 3 of those around the perimeter of the spool. And they aim kind of the opposite angle of the initial slot you put in it. So then you take your pre-tied leaders, and these are I got some leaders here that I tying up for dipsy divers, and I tend to put a ball bearing swivel on one end of them and a real tiny small cross-lock snap on the other end of them. I always like to have that cross-lock snap on the lure end of the rig. It's real light and doesn't affect the action. Another tip on these ball bearing swivels, I like the ones that have the welded ring on them instead of like a split ring style on them. Just one less thing for your line to get nicked up on. So you take your swivel end of this leader and you put it through that slot you cut in the rim until it goes into that 1/8-inch hole you drilled. And then you just wrap it on the spool. Once you get it wrapped on, you get yourself another leader that you got tied. Just happen to have one hanging here on this caribou horn. You just hook them end to end. So snap to snap. And you always want to close them snaps up too. If you don't, they can get tangled up, and then you just keep wrapping it on there. And you can wrap many of them on there as you want, just end to end. Once you got them all wrapped on there, take a rubber band. I run big boards on my boat and I have rubber bands all over the place on my boat. You hook the rubber band onto that last snap, and you just hook it around one of them slots you cut in the rim like that. and it can't come unspooled. And then when you want a leader, you just basically unhook one, take it off, and you're set to go. Another thing I like to do is I always got some tape, and I write on there what pound test I got on there, and I'll put that little thing right in the middle, right in the spool, inside the spool, so I know what pound test it is or how long they are, what have you. So that's Mike with Mike's Walleye Rigs.
As the owner of Mike's Walleye Rigs, I've been had the opportunity to meet a lot of great fishermen throughout the country, and there are a lot of really cool destination trips within a 3-hour drive of the city of Erie. Example could be the early spring walleye bite, the jigging bite in the Detroit River, or as far away on the opposite end of the region to Pulaski, New York, fishing for salmon in the fall salmon runs. So we'll be interviewing some great fishermen and some great guys across the country and talking about anything from walleye fishing to bass fishermen, fishing salmon, whatever it might be, and whatever that area might have. As I was planning Walleyes and Adventure throughout the Grape region, it was important to me that before I added anything else into my life to do, I have a lot of things in my life that keep me busy. I have a full-time job, family, walleye charter business, and a fishing lure business, and I'm an avid hunter and shooter. And before I gave any more, it was important to me that I gave some more to the Lord. I have a lot to be thankful for, a lot of blessings that been happening, and so it was important to me that I added some part of faith to Walleyes and Adventure throughout the Grape region. And so we're going to call it the Faith Thoughts, and you'll see why this is important to me probably as I go on with the first faith thought for the first episode. Many of you that have followed me know that in July of 25, I was diagnosed with cancer. When given news like this, it changes you and the ones close to you's perspective on life. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, I turned to the Lord and prayed for the tools to get me through this. I was reluctant to tell others what was going on with me. My wife, Miss Julie, many of you have probably seen her at the trade shows or maybe on some Facebook videos where it happens. She's a great lady of faith. But Miss Julie, she's a pastor. I believe it was the weekend after I got the diagnosis. She was preaching, and I'd had to watch it through a live feed. It was actually, I think it was shortly after one of my treatments, so I wasn't allowed to be around people. And she was preaching and told the congregation what was going on with me. And I was like, oh no. I just really didn't want people knowing. Not that I didn't want them to know, I just didn't want all the extra attention and all the questions that came with it. And I think it was later on in October, I was going through treatments, and I had talking to close friends. They were telling me, there's lots of people out there got questions of what's going on and concerns, especially in the fishing community. Just really wanted to know what was going on with me. And there again, I really didn't want to put all the information out there, but I did, and I was amazed at the outpouring of prayers and people coming out telling they were praying for me. People that I just had no idea that really knew the Lord, knew they were putting out heartfelt prayers for me. Between the church and the fishing community, I just an enormous amount of prayer warriors out there. And I spent the winter of 2025, 2026 undergoing chemotherapy treatments, and I'm glad to say that those treatments went really well, and I didn't have half the problems that most people have with chemotherapy. Didn't have a lot of side effects. I didn't miss much of a hitch there. I was able to do most of the things that I enjoyed doing, just couldn't be around a lot of people. I harvested buck and archery season and got to have a lot of great adventures with my family all through hunting season, and got to spend time with my grandson. The first day of rifle season is pretty much a tradition of ours now to sit and stand together. We had a successful day. I owe all that to the Lord. Doctors can give you stuff to make you well, but they can't produce the outcome, and I just feel through the prayers that I received, that's what how I got the outcome that I got. James 5:13 says this: "Are any of you suffering hardship? You should pray. Are any of you happy? You should sing. Are any of you sick? You should call for the elders of the church to come and pray over you anointing you with oil in the name of the Lord. Such a prayer offered in faith will heal the sick, and the Lord will make you well. And if you have committed any sins, you will be forgiven. Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. I believe this. Prayer is a powerful thing. Earnestly pray for one another. The Lord is listening. Until we meet again, may your nets be full and your adventures be great.
Hunting, fishing, loving every day. That's a prayer that a country boy prays. Thank God he made me this way. Hunting, fishing, loving every day. Early in the morning, late in the evening, I'm getting red dirt rich, Flint River paid. Hunting, fishing, loving every day.